Well, welcome everybody. This is Mid-State Literacy Council's Policies and Procedures video. My name's Ash, if we haven't met before, and I'm the English Language Learning, or ELL, Program Coordinator. And with me today is Erica, our ELL Specialist.
Hello.
In this presentation, we'll go over our policies and procedures, which should be familiar information for you, especially if you're a returning volunteer or someone who has just gone through a new volunteer intake meeting. But part of our training is we want to make sure that everybody's on the same page about all of our policies and procedures. So let's get started into this. As I mentioned, my name is Ash, and I'm the ELL Program Coordinator, and I make up part of the English Language Learning team. Erica's another component of that team, and in addition to us two, we also have Bridget Schell, our Executive Director of MSLC. For those of you who have been with us a while, you definitely know Bridget because she had my role before I got hired in September. But all together, the three of us make up the English Language Learning team here at MSLC. From there, one of the first things I want to talk about is kind of how our semesters are structured here at MSLC. So every year we have a fall and a spring semester. Each of those semesters are 10 weeks long, and across those 10 weeks, we're always shooting for 20 sessions total. So if you're volunteering with us, that is your time commitment. Every semester we'll ask you to renew whether you'd like to volunteer with us again or not. But every time you commit as a volunteer with us, that's what you're committing to, 10 weeks, 20 sessions. The two different forms of volunteering with us in our ELL program are acting as a class teacher or a tutor. Our classes do have a set start and end date for our fall and our spring semesters. Comparatively, our tutors, those 10-week schedule, that 10-week schedule and 20 sessions begin on a rolling basis. So depending on when you and your tutoree meet and begin working together is when that 10-week clock starts. Additionally, depending on what's going on in our organization administratively and what we're able to facilitate logistically at that particular time, sometimes we do have a summer semester, but those schedules vary depending on what else is going on as an organization. But this is just kind of the overview for a yearly picture of our fall and our spring semesters. Additionally, one of the things that we'd like to talk about in this video that is a little bit of a shift, in addition to shifting to me and having this role as compared to Bridget having the ELL program coordinator role in the past, is that you will have noticed that we are starting to use ELL, English Language Learner or Learning, depending on if we're talking about the gerund or the noun form of the abbreviation, from ESL, English as a Second Language. We do use both functionally in the same way. However, as an organization, we are using ELL way more often now because English Language Learner does acknowledge that English may be a student's third, fourth, fifth, sixth, however many language, and that's a more accurate reflection of our student body and where folks are coming to us from. But just to make that note, we do functionally use them in the same way and interchangeably, but ELL is just the more common one we use now. From there, I want to get into a little section about sort of the information sharing that we will give to you from our end as MSLC employees, and that we'll ask to get from you as well as MSLC volunteers. So the first component of this is how to review student reports. Every single student that comes to us, we have a new student meeting with them in which we talk to them about who they are, their background, their goals. We get an idea of, at the time, their language ability via a spoken and listened to test. And in all of that, we compile a student report in which Erica also provides some suggestions based on what we know about that student as to how to best help that student reach their ELL goals. In those reports, depending on if you're a tutor or a teacher at any particular semester, if you're a tutor, you're automatically sent a student report alongside the email that I will send to all new tutors for their introductory meeting. So that way you can get an idea for your individual students' needs, goals, backgrounds, all that sort of stuff. That I will send that to you via email. Comparatively, with class teachers, you are not automatically sent your student reports. That's in large part because during the first 2 weeks of the semester, we do have an add and drop period where students are allowed to self-select and pick up a class, drop a class, depending on what works best with their schedule and what they identify as their level, just to make sure that everybody's comfortable. And because of that's a very chaotic time, I don't automatically send all those reports to students, to the class teachers right at the jump, just to sort of manage that all of that information sharing. However, if you would very much like to see your student reports, you're welcome to email me and ask for them, and I will share those student reports with you then. Um, if you do have some changes to your roster and you would like to have your new student reports, please remind me because it's like I said, the beginning of the semester is a chaotic time and it's helpful for me to have that reminder to share that sort of information with you. So student reports are available upon request via email for teachers. Then, another piece of information sharing that we'd like for you to share with us is that we'd like for you to share your attendance with us, particularly for class teachers. All of class teachers for every class at the beginning of the semester, I will create a roster and an attendance sheet for your particular classroom. If you teach in the MSLC office, that physical piece of paper where your attendance sheet is tracked will be sitting in the classroom that you've been assigned. As the add drop in period goes on, we do ask that you write in student names as necessary and cross out student names as students drop, and that you manage your own roster in that way. Additionally, as what the thing I discovered my first semester working here is sometimes how we create these the way we record attendance is a little bit chaotic. So I have created a legend on all these attendance sheets that I do ask that you follow so I can read your attendance sheet and I can understand the system that's going on. Because ultimately these attendance sheets help us track things like number of hours worked, the students that consistently come to class, and sort of be able to track that process, that progress. Finally, at the end of the semester, I will ask that you submit those to me at the end of the semester. So if in the event that you teach online or if you teach not in the MSLC office, please be extra cognizant of keeping track when you don't have the physical attendance sheet in the classroom already waiting for you every time. But however you deliver it to me, just make sure I get that filled out attendance sheet at the end of the semester. Comparatively, for tutors, you will receive an attendance sheet that you're welcome to use for you and your student to keep track of your 20 sessions. However, for our tracking purposes, you do not need to submit those to us. So that's just for your purposes only. So that way you have an idea of how many sessions you've completed. And that's how I'd like you to do attendance. Another piece of communication that we ask that you keep track of as the semester goes on and that we ask that you take very seriously is our monthly forms. Our monthly forms is the primary way for us to, make sure progress is being made, that you're still content with your volunteering role, that your student is still content with their volunteering role or their student role. And so we do ask that you take our monthly forms very seriously. This is for teachers and tutors. So anyone who's volunteering with us in our ELL program, we ask that you fill out these monthly forms. Every month, I will send out a reminder for those monthly forms. Those reminders I send out every Monday of the month, and I ask that you return those forms for the previous month on the first Friday of that month. So say if I sent a reminder on December 1st, I ask that you turn it in, what would that be, December 5th, for November's progress. I will also add, we get asked this a lot, Even if you've only completed a session or two, please turn in a completed form anyway. We find that those first handful of sessions are when teachers and tutors struggle the most. And having a little check-in with this monthly form is a good way for us to identify, hey, this person is going to need some extra help to get through the toughest part of getting started volunteering with us. So even if you've only completed a session or two, please fill it out anyway. We want to keep track of all your progress, and we want to have that open line of communication start early. Um, in the event that for whatever reason you don't receive a reminder email and you're ready to turn in your form, and you're having trouble finding the link, you can always find the link for the monthly form on the MSLC website, or the Volunteer Resources Google Drive or the VRGD. They're available in both of those places, and I send those reminders a lot. So just go through your search on your email box. So. Um, as I mentioned, our monthly forms are really important to us as an organization because they help us have a clear understanding as to what's going on. Because ultimately, even though Bridget, Erica, Amanda, our adult basic education program coordinator, and we do a lot of this work. Ultimately, a lot of the stuff that happens because our volunteers make it happen. So this is our best tool that we have to keep track of all of that. So the why behind our monthly forms is first and foremost, our first priority is to stay connected with you as volunteers. If you need extra support, please let us know. The monthly form is a great place to ask for help. Additionally, we think that the reflexive nature of the monthly forms, in filling it out, it helps you think about the things that you're doing well, the things that you'd like to potentially switch up or try something different. We find it to be really helpful for our volunteers in that way too, both to let us know what's going on and also for you to figure out places for improvement, or places you think you're already doing really well. Um, Relatedly, we would love to see student achievements. Student achievements. We are a community funded nonprofit, and so therefore, a big chunk of Bridget's role as our executive director is applying to grants, and getting the word out there about MSLC to the community in order to drum up donations and drum up funding for us to continue to do the work that we do. Those sort of warm and fuzzy achievements that y'all tell us about via our monthly forms are so helpful for us to prove to different grantors, and the general state college center, and Clearfield County communities that the work we're doing is really impactful and great. So please share those student achievements with us. On a more quantifiable side, some of our donors like to see the amount of hours that you as volunteers put in, and the amount of hours that our students put in working with us. And so having a record of the instructional and other volunteer hours that you put in through our monthly forms helps us be able to accurately tell our donors how much time y'all are spending volunteering with us. So please fill that out as thoroughly as you can. And then finally, one of the last things that our monthly form does is it has kind of a dual purpose. So I'll talk more about this later in the presentation, but all MSLC related events must be held in public, not your home, not in your student's home. And so we want to make sure by asking you where you have been meeting with your student, that is happening, that all of your MSLC related events are being held in public. But on the other side of that, is that it also helps us identify new places for our tutor pairs to meet. We're always looking for new places that are open to having MSLC tutoring pairs meet up, whether that be somewhere totally free, like the Schlow Library, or Penn State, if you or your student is affiliated with Penn State in some way, or perhaps like somewhere that it's not necessarily free like a coffee shop, but it's a good place to talk. And so to have those different ideas that we can share with new tutoring pairs based on where is accessible for those tutoring pairs. So the monthly forms serve a lot of purposes, but which is why we want you to take them super seriously. But that's kind of the why we have you fill that out. As I mentioned earlier, you can find the monthly forms on the Volunteer Resources Google Drive or the VRGD. In addition to our monthly forms, we have all of our digital content accessible through that VRGD. At some point during your volunteer intake process, you should have been shared a link to this Google Drive. I also share this link with you whenever you, every single semester when you agree to volunteer with us again, and I talk to you about your particular volunteering situation. I share the VRGD link again, but if at any point you need it again and you lose it, email me, let me know. It's also hyperlinked to this PowerPoint. So if you download this PowerPoint, you should be able to click that blue underlined hyperlink to take you to the Google Drive. In addition to having all of the MSLC forms, it also includes lesson plan ideas, tutoring methods, additional training, worksheets that folks have created and shared with us. This is just where we currently house all of our digital resources. So please give it a search through. We are always updating it, and we are currently in the process of building a website that should be publicly available as well. But for right now, this is what we've got, our Google Drive. And so we would love for you to use those digital resources as you find appropriate. One of the big highlights I want to mention, especially in relation to the VRGD, is health literacy. We see health literacy as critically important to all forms of literacy that we as an organization help our students learn. Health literacy in the world we live in is not always immediately obvious, and it is a skill that you have to learn. And so that's why this is one of our top priorities. It's very confusing, especially for our ELL students who do struggle with English because it's designed to be confusing for English speakers, native English speakers as well. So this is one of our top priorities, and it's really important to me as the ELL program coordinator. This is a huge important thing for me that I would like to continue to see grow as a priority in our organization. And one of the ways that we have to make that happen is that our volunteers, we ask that every single one of you teaches at least one health literacy lesson each semester. In our monthly form, there will be a question prompting you, asking you if you have taught a health literacy lesson, sort of as a little reminder. And also so that way you can report back to me to let me know, hey, this is what I did. So I can get an idea of um, new ways to implement health literacy lessons into our curriculum as an organization. Just this is not an exhaustive list, but some of the sample topics that I've been told folks have done in the past and that I think would be really accessible and just good ideas to talk about with your students. First and foremost, navigating health insurance. It's confusing and it's tough. And so navigating health insurance, critical lesson, I think could be really helpful for folks. How to fill out medical forms. A lot of our ELL students struggle to even understand how to fill out medical forms. So doing that really applicable practice, really practical practice with actually filling those out, mocking it up could be a really great topic. How to have an emergency plan, how to call 911, the sorts of questions that a 911 responder would ask. Having that sort of thing would be super helpful as well. In addition to those, I've been told that folks have asked their students to create a presentation or write an essay on beliefs about health or the healthcare system in their country compared to the US, as well as digital health literacy and mental health. The options are endless. These are just some ideas for you to use. Um, in addition to that, where you can find some health literacy lessons that have already been made for you is first and foremost on the VRGD. We have a wealth of resources created by Penn State medical students. One of my personal favorites is the health literacy workbooks that have been created by Molly Stegman, who is one of our previous volunteers, who now works with us specifically on this health literacy project. She created health literacy workbooks, one set that was geared towards beginner and intermediate students, and then one set that's geared towards advanced students. And they're specifically designed for ELL students in mind. So they have very accessible language. There's 4 lessons in each of those, and it would be really helpful practice. You can find those workbooks in 2 places. You can find them digitally on the VRGD under Resources for Teachers and Tutors in the Health Literacy folder. You can also find hard copies that we have already printed available in our physical ELL library in the MSLC office. If you're teaching a class in the MSLC office and you'd like to use those workbooks, you are welcome to use those, and we'll just print out a new set for the next class that's interested in using those health literacy workbooks. Additionally, in addition to Molly Stegman's workbooks that she created, we also have other health literacy materials on the VRGD. We have several presentations that were created by, if I remember correctly, it was Molly as well as other Penn State medical students with our ELL students in mind that are on more specific and tailored topics such as diet and cardiac health. And so, as well as other materials that folks have created over the years that we've collected and they have very kindly shared with us. In addition to those digital resources, if you're the sort of person that prefers a hard physical book or you have a student that wants something more specific, we do have some physical library books that you're welcome to check out just like you would any other book. So for instance, we've had students that would like to go to medical school here in the US or nursing school here in the US. And so we have books that, like anatomy books and stuff like that, that could be helpful for your particular students and their needs. And then finally, just like with all of our topics that we ask that our volunteers work on, is that we want you to take the materials we provide for you and riff on them, remix them, tailor them to your particular students' needs and goals. So you are welcome to design your own health literacy lessons. And if you create something that you really like and your student finds really helpful, we would love it if you shared them with us so that way we can add them to our VRGD for others to use in the future. So that's kind of my little spiel about health literacy. Now into some of the more like specific nitty gritty for our policies. As I already mentioned, confidentiality is really important to us. So that's confidentiality and privacy both for you, the volunteer, but also our students. Our students come from all over the world for a ton of different reasons. And as their teacher or tutor, you a lot of times will become a trusted person to them. And they may share things with you, or you may see information about them on their student report. That's a little sensitive. And we just ask that you keep all of that confidential to you. Relatedly, if your student shares something with you that is an issue outside of language teaching, such as immigration issues or housing issues, we do ask that you bring those sorts of problems to us, the MSLC staff. So me, Erica, Amanda, or Bridget. So that way we can help that student address those issues. So please keep all their information confidential. Please, let us know if there's something a little bit more serious past just language learning that needs to be addressed. Additionally, for small gifts, I have two components of small gifts. So a lot of our students, they come from cultures where it is very normal for them to provide small gifts to teachers, tutors, things like that, as a way to show appreciation. You are welcome to accept small gifts. Now, if you would like to give your student a gift, so for instance, we have a lot of students who struggle with transportation, whether that be through the bus or they don't necessarily have access to a car or can't drive or what have you. If you'd like to provide a transportation donation, if you'd like to do that through us for you to get a tax write-off form, you would just purchase and say an Uber gift card or a Lyft gift card or bus tokens. You can donate them to us as an organization. We can give you a form for you to use as a tax write-off for a donation, and then we'll gift those funds, whether they be bus tokens, Uber, Lyft gift card, to your particular student that you had intended them for. So wanted to make that little comment about small gifts. Related to that, I just want to re-emphasize again, all MSLC related events must be held in public. So not at your home, not at your student's home, only in public places. And that includes cars. So please do not share rides with your student. Please do not accept rides from your student. That's when situations like a transportation donation would be really helpful for students that do struggle with transportation. So public places only for all MSLC related events, tutoring sessions, classes, and the like. Another thing that we ask is that we ask that you do not bring your children to your classes, and then we also ask all of our students to not bring children to classes. Part of that is for legal reasons, because we do not ask our volunteers to have childcare clearances or anything like that through Pennsylvania, like the state government. But it's also, quite frankly, children can be really distracting for English language learning, whether that be distracting for the volunteer, distracting for the parent who's trying to manage their child while they learn, in addition to potentially distracting other students if it is a class situation. So we do ask no children in classes. And then finally, one of the last policies that it's worth going over in this video is the use of Google Translate in phones in class. One of the things that we like to highlight, please do not use Google Translate as a crutch. Ultimately, we want your first line of instruction to be English. That's what we're shooting for here. And having that struggling through language differences in a safe space like the tutoring session or the classroom, that's the best way for your student to get practice struggling through difficulties with communicating in English. However, if you try and you're just not able to cross that language barrier and you need Google Translate because perhaps the student doesn't have the vocabulary word necessary, or what have you, that's when it's appropriate to use Google Translate. But always try to communicate in English first and try enthusiastically. One of the biggest questions that we get asked every semester, throughout the semester, is our absentee policy. So if you're a teacher and you can't attend your class, please let me know as soon as possible. And that's for several reasons. First of all, I will look for a sub, whether that be me or Bridget, or one of our subs that we have on call. That's always my first priority is like, can we maintain the same day and meeting time if you, the volunteer, the teacher, are not able to make that time? And if not, that way I can communicate to the students that I have to cancel the class, and that way we can plan to reschedule that missed session at the end of the semester during our makeup session week. Please do not communicate directly with your students to cancel or reschedule for classes. That's my job. I'm the one who has the most updated email list as those sorts of things change with our students' lives and they let us know their most updated contact information. So please let me handle rescheduling and canceling classes and communicating that to your students. Um, um, Comparatively, for tutors, it's a little bit different. If you or your student can't meet on your regular day and time, please reschedule that session directly with your student. I do not need to be involved with that. With the exception of if conflicts, tardiness, or absences are consistent and the two of you cannot work it out, please let me know so that way I can intervene and mediate to try to figure out a best case scenario for both you, the volunteer, and the student. And then finally, if you can't complete 20 sessions by the last month of the semester, please let me know that as well. Um, as I mentioned at the beginning of this, when I talked about the year semester schedule, is that if your tutoring sessions are going to run into the next semester, it's helpful for me to know that, especially if you and or the student wants to continue into the next semester. So that way, if I need to figure out a different situation, I can know that you need a little bit of extra time to finish up with your first tutoring situation before I start you on a new tutoring situation. So keeping track of all of that is super helpful for me. And so please let me know via email if that's going to be the case for you and your student. Um, as I mentioned, we are a community funded nonprofit. And one of our sources of income is we do ask all of our ELL students to give us a student registration donation. We ask for $250 for the 10 weeks of instruction over a semester. And it is a donation. And so, based on how all of our income things work. That's a more Bridget's more informed on how all that works than I am, but I do know that we are not able to give refunds. So every semester, when we bring this up to our students, we do make a note that we ask that all of our students do not give us this donation until they're certain they can do tutoring or classes with us, because we are not able to give refunds. If your student comes to you and they feel a little bit unsure about how they're going to pay that $250, we do have scholarships that are available for low income students, and just have them come talk to me so I can get that worked out with them. Another policy that we have that is worth knowing, especially as we record this today on a snow day, is that we do have a winter weather policy, and we do base it upon the State College Area School District, or SCASD. So if SCASD is delayed or dismissed early, everything for delays, everything before 11:30 a.m. is canceled. So that includes Zoom classes, so Zoom or in-person classes. Um, all classes that start at 11:30 a.m. or later, they are held as normal. Comparatively, for an early dismissal, that will mean all afternoon and evening classes, Zoom or in person, are canceled. And then finally, if SCASD is closed, all of our in person and Zoom classes are canceled. The one little asterisk I'll put on that note is that for tutoring pairs, is that the decision to reschedule is up to you two. Ultimately, please communicate with each other. Please let each other know what you would like to do, and please always put safety first and do not travel if you're concerned about unsafe conditions. All canceled classes will be rescheduled if possible. So either during our makeup week, or if you end up having more than 2 missed sessions in a semester, we'll shoot for a third to reschedule that at a specific time, whether that be during makeup week or at a different time in the semester, because we're always shooting for 20 sessions. And now Erica will talk about this ELL specialist component of our presentation.
Yeah, so every semester almost we hear from somebody saying basically, help, my students have different needs. What do I do? They're so different from each other and I don't know what to do. So we want to address this right up front and just make you aware that heterogeneity of every kind and heterogeneous English language skills among students is absolutely the norm for ELL classes. And it is difficult for all teachers, no matter how experienced they may be. So this is because, teaching English in a country like the United States, we have people from all different countries, all different cultural backgrounds. Learning language is by no means a linear process. They have experienced different education systems, different language teaching methodologies. They have different degrees of immersion in English speaking communities. So therefore, you're just going to see so much variety. So to some extent, that's just the nature of the work. But I also want to point out that, as Ash mentioned earlier, in our initial assessment protocols, where we are trying to help students decide which level class to enroll in, we only evaluate their speaking and listening skills. We do not look at their reading or writing skills at all in that initial screening. And for two reasons. One is just the feasibility of taking the time. We have a lot of students to assess, and so we're time-wise, we decided to focus on speaking and listening rather than reading and writing. The other reason is that if students are able to especially listen and comprehend at a certain level, then they normally can function pretty well at that level, even if their reading and writing skills may be relatively weaker. But it is important to be aware of that. So especially if you're teaching a reading or writing class, I would really recommend that you take a look at their reading and writing in that first week of class. And this goes for all teachers, but particularly reading and writing teachers. You might want to have them do a small independent writing task in your class so that you can see, most of the time, I think you'll see, okay, all these students, they all have different challenges and different strengths, but sometimes there will be they will group together, and then there will be one that's way more advanced or, needs much more fundamental instruction than the others. So during that first week or two of classes, we want you all to be just really try to be cognizant of the students in your class and their skill levels, and consider enrollment changes if you notice any outliers. And we tell the students the same thing when they're just joining a new level, to have us, be aware of the group dynamic, and if they feel that they're an outlier. we want to address that in the first 2 weeks of classes and get people in the best place they can be. There's no perfection, but generally people find one level is more comfortable for them to participate in the dynamics of the group. So at the end of the day, do the best you can. All the students are going to benefit from the engagement with a variety of different English speakers. So try not to let that the heterogeneity, be a barrier, but actually something you can work with to the benefit of all.
Thank you, Erica. Another thing that we get asked a lot in relation to just especially a class dynamic is that adults have complicated lives. Attendance is a challenge. Please, please, please plan accordingly and be compassionate to your students who may struggle to attend classes. I mean, don't hold it against them, and don't take it personally. We do ask that you, as a volunteer, come to every scheduled class. However, there may be days that no students arrive. It doesn't happen often, but it does sometimes happen, unfortunately, especially for our classes that have a smaller enrollment. And so just so you are aware, it is okay for you to leave after 30 minutes if no students arrive. Please just let us know that that has happened. Relatedly, you will not be required to make up a class in the event that no students show up for it. So just in case you were wondering. But yeah, like I said, please don't take it personally. Attendance is a challenge that we see a lot just because our students are super busy and they lead very busy lives, as do you as our volunteers. So hopefully they are able to communicate that to us, but sometimes they are not. So be compassionate to your students and their attendance struggles. And then let's talk teaching.
Okay, so I just wanted to let you know a little bit about these Let's Talk teaching sessions that we hold every semester. This is one of the ways that we provide in-service support for teachers and tutors who are interested and have the time. We will schedule 4 different sessions each semester. We'll let you know about those specific dates via email. And these are just an opportunity to connect with me and other volunteers as well. So you're welcome to set up a one-to-one meeting with me anytime. You can just call the office, send me an email, or indicate on your monthly form that you'd like a one-to-one meeting. And I'm very, very happy to do that with you. But a lot of our volunteers really enjoy meeting the other volunteers as well and hearing from them, somebody that's more of a peer. And so this is your opportunity to connect with other volunteers as well. In every session, there will be an opportunity, first of all, for you to talk about what's happening with your particular class or your particular student, and to bring up any challenge, specific challenge that you might be facing. So that's a priority, is every time we just open the floor to whatever our volunteers want to talk about. And sometimes that ends up taking the entire session, which is great. But I want to let you know that I also will always bring some food for thought, like some teaching concept, some kind of activity for us to engage in, so that if people don't, come with any pressing issue on their minds, we'll bring a teaching related activity and something for you to think about and engage with each other on. So these are always one of the highlights of the semester for me. They're always really rich conversations that happen. I want to emphasize that it's an opportunity to both give and receive suggestions. So it's not only if you're having trouble. One of the best things that happens in these sessions is that somebody else might be, having a challenge with something, and you, based on your experience, can then say, well, this is what I tried, and this is what's worked for me. And like I said, this is often the most valuable thing that comes out of these sessions, is peer-to-peer sharing. So don't hesitate to attend. I would love for you to attend if you're very experienced and you're having no problems, or brand new beginner, really feeling lost, and anywhere in between. They're really fun, and it's also a great way for me to get to know you better, which is great. So we will, as I said, Ash will be sending you information about the dates that we have scheduled, and she will also send you a reminder about a week or so ahead of each session. And in that reminder email, there will be an opportunity to click a link and register for that particular session. It's helpful for me to have a sense of who I can expect. It might affect how what I decide to talk about, or I can think through how I might want to pair you with each other based on your role with the organization or your experience level. So if you don't mind, please click that link and let me know you're coming. But if you decide at the last minute you want to come and you haven't registered, please come. You're always welcome. That's all on that.
Okay. So what comes next after watching this video? So if you are a class teacher, you should expect an email from me or perhaps several emails depending on what point in the semester we're at, which includes your class days and times, as well as your class location or Zoom link. Um, Depending on what class that you have signed up to teach, you will also receive the titles of your books, as well as information as to when to check those books out. That's assigned to that particular class topic. You will also have in a class attendance sheet. I'll send you both the digital version and you will get a physical version if you are teaching within the MSLC office, as I mentioned, as well as the current list of registered students. Late contact information for late additions will be emailed, but as I mentioned, it would be super helpful if you sent me a reminder email if I forget to email you that information because it's chaotic in the first couple of weeks. So please be patient with me and help me with reminders if I am behind on the ball with sending you information. And then, depending on which class that you've signed up for, if there are course guidelines available, those will be shared with you as well. If at any point you want to see things like the book title or the course guidelines, those are also all available on the VRGD as well, under information about each of those classes. Comparatively, for tutors, you'll also receive an email or a series of emails from me, which includes your student name and contact information, as well as their student report. When I set up your introductory meeting, that will include a proposed weekly meeting days and times that I have when I've cross-checked your availability with your students' availability. That's just a proposal of days and times that you both told me would work for you. Um, Relatedly, the date and time of the introductory meeting, I will try to schedule that also when you two are both available. And so you'll receive emails from me about those sorts of things. And especially with tutors, thank you for being patient as we find a perfect match for you. As I said, it is a rolling basis for tutor pair matching. And so we consider a lot of different components when we're matching tutors with students, and that we're always trying to find the best case scenario that would be a really rewarding experience for both you as the volunteer as well as the students. Um, I think it's also worthwhile to mention that every semester we have volunteers who, especially at the beginning of the semester, they're so excited and they're really thrilled to get started. And then they get started and it's awkward or they're apprehensive or they feel uncertain about what they're doing as a volunteer. And maybe they feel like they're not doing a good enough job or that for whatever reason, they're really struggling. Um, this is a very common trajectory of emotions where you have a high point when you get started. Um, Things get a little stressful because you're not confident as a tutor yet or as a teacher yet. That's all very, very normal, and it happens to a lot of our volunteers. However, the thing that also happens to basically all of our volunteers is they do get out of that slump of fear and lack of confidence because as you develop a relationship with your students, things will get better, things will get less awkward, you'll build confidence, your students will build confidence, to where at the end of the semester, every semester, we have so many volunteers and students who tell us that it was such a rewarding experience. And we think that all the work that you do as volunteers here is really lovely and phenomenal. And we're really blessed to have the group of volunteers that we do every semester. And so you will get out of that slump, we promise. And if at any point you just can't get out of that slump, that's a great time to let us know via one of those monthly forms or reach out to us so we can help you through that slump. So that way we can get you all super pleased and sunny like that cute little sunshine smiley face by week 10. So please reach out at any point if you have trouble getting out of that slump. However, it is very common. Keep it pushing. And we just want to highlight that. To conclude this presentation, I just want to say if there's anything that we did not cover during this presentation that you have questions about, please let us know so we can answer any questions you may have. You're welcome to email either Erica or myself. You can see our emails listed there. And additionally to that, you can call the office, you can set up an appointment with us, or you can stop by. So please, please, please reach out to us if you have any questions at all. And finally, may the force be with you. Go out and do great things. We're so lucky to have you as a volunteer, and we hope that Baby Yoda sends you on well. May the force be with you. So thank you for listening to this presentation, and we're excited to get started with you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great semester.